Welcome back. It's the Covax Report for some more honest comic book reviews with me and my good buddy Jimmy X.
Hey, how
Okay,
you doing?
Jimmy. I know we're on time this week, thank God. Less technical hitches, more comic book reading. So, good week for you
Sounds
or
good
not?
to me. Yeah, good week.
Yes, yes. Lots of comic book news. We should definitely do a segment which is just news about what that's been released. As well. Not
I'm
just
down with that.
yeah, I'm down
Yeah.
for it too. We'll have to figure it out. But this week, mate, we're going to jump straight into our reviews. So again, I read The Hive, which I was going to review it, and then
Oh,
I
right. Yeah,
decided
yeah.
that it was one of the worst books I've read. So I decided to switch
Ooh,
to Let This
okay.
One Be a Devil with our good buddy Tynion with art by Foxe. Now, Dark Horse. I don't know. It says a true weird story. So maybe this is part
Okay.
of like some series or something. I don't know if it connects with anything else or it's just part of um, a line. Let's say like Ultimates, Absolute. But anyway, it's a
Mm-hmm.
horror book. I love horror. Thought we'll give it a go. Cool cover. So yes, what do I think of this book? Confused. I'm a bit confused because it's Tinian. I expected a little bit more because not a lot really happens. It's not a bad book by any means. Not really. I mean, the art's okay. It's got that sort of 1900s woodcut feel to it, which is where the book's set, really, isn't it? It's sort of olden times. But basically, there's a family that live in a house, and in the 1900s, there's some noise outside, and the young lad of the family, there's no father there. Mum sends them out to check on the chickens to see what's going on, right? And they think it's a fox or an owl or something, but there's a lot of blood. So the kid investigates a bit further and finds some winged, horned demon devil. He's been chewing on the chickens, basically. So he shoots at it and it flies off. So again, it's a tall story. And he comes in, his little brother's there, and his little brother is upset with him because he went out to the big city to get an education, right? And he's come back to this town, and his little brother thinks, he abandoned us, the family, and he thinks, I don't know, maybe he thinks his brother thinks he's better than him. I don't know. He's more like his father, the younger one. So anyway, the rest of the book, he cleans up the mess that the dead chickens made, walks to town, then we don't really get a lot. We just get sort of some kids cross the street going, "Oh, it's Roy. Roy's here, isn't it? Roy's brother's here." And oh, be careful. There's devils about. And then we jump to 1735, even further back in another house. Maybe it's the same house. I think it's the same house. And we get this woman giving birth. Right, she's already got I think 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. So this is the 13th child, right? I mean,
I
number
see. That old
13,
chestnut.
and she's struggling to give birth to it, and she mutters the words, "Let this one be a devil," and it pops out, and then it sort of suddenly deteriorates from a newborn baby into this horribly weird looking tailed devil baby underneath the blanket. We don't see the whole baby, so it's a devil, isn't it? It's like, oh dear. And then we get this little short story, which I guess is they're trying to add a little bit more to this world where it's set in 1968 and a family lives in the house and they are plagued by a poltergeist. And then they move and the ghost from that previous house, I guess, or this new house appears and lots of poltergeist activity happens again. And it's not, it's just like, well, what really happened in
Was
this book? You know?
was that the black and white bit at the
Yeah,
end?
it's the
Because
black
I
and
thought
white bit again, and
I
it's,
didn't even read that bit. I just
well, I
thought
forced
story's
myself
over.
I thought so because I thought if it's really interconnected into the main story, then I should really read it. But you know, they had a bit of an exorcism, and they sort of burnt the kids' clothes who was kind of more affected by this possession than anything else in the house, and it left it. And
Right.
I just felt like it felt like a rip-off of Poltergeist and a rip-off of your average it's a demon baby story. Like you didn't really learn anything about the characters. You didn't really care about the characters because there was no character building in there. It just felt just I don't know, a sort of nothing burger, as the kids say. But again, I'm going to read the next one. I was just a bit disappointed because I expected a bit more from Tinian. He's a good writer, but that was it. I'm surprised you read it too, as it's a horror book.
Well, Tenney, and he did some good stuff with Snyder's run on Batman,
That's true. Well, that's what they say.
which,
Follow the curator.
which I enjoyed. So yeah, but yeah, this was, yeah, well, like you said, nothing happened. So
So nothing to add, really,
yeah,
is it? You sure? Any nuggets to throw in there?
Not about this book, man. No.
Oh man. All right. Well, you know what? I know that if I don't like something and you don't like something, it's definitely bad.
There
So
you go. Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah. Moving on to one of your favourites.
G.I. Joe issue
Oh, crikey.
4, published by Image and Skybound, written by Joshua Williamson with art and cover art there by Tom Reilly. Cobra La. Oh yeah. In the previous issue of G.I. Joe, Cobra Commander survived an assassination attempt on him. Clutch found himself trapped behind enemy lines, and new original character Risk butted heads with field leader Duke before they both teamed up with the new Joe, the Baroness. And we pick up on a frantic battle, a beautiful action sequence by Tom Reilly, reminiscent
Oh.
of Jock's work on the Losers, really.
Oh, I love the Losers.
Yeah, so Cobra are the much more organized faction of the two. They quickly subdue and capture both Joe's sub teams, and Duke's team surrender during the firefight under threat of major civilian casualties, while Stalker and Covergirl are overwhelmed by the now Cobra loyal biker gang, the Dreadnoughts. And as I said in my Cobra Commander review, these guys aren't toothless anymore. They are nasty pieces of work in this new Energon universe. So this results in Cobra now having both the ridiculously powerful brainwave scanner device and Dr. Mondes, who's the creator of said device, in their clutches. Meanwhile, back at Cobra HQ, Destro discovers that the corpse of Cobra Commander's assassin is not human. He's wearing basically a human skin mask, and he's blue underneath.
Oh.
This is because he's an assassin from Cobra La, which is the secret society of people that evolved alongside they evolved alongside the dinosaurs. So they're reptiles. They live under the earth. This was all covered in G.I. Joe the movie, if you've ever seen that. And they sent him to assassinate Cobra Commander, who's also from Cobra La. And so Cobra Commander's plan is revealed. He's going to use Energon to soup up the scanner into a brainwave bomb. Then this is going to send a subliminal message to anybody in the blast area with 2 words: obey Cobra. As the POW Joes arrive at Cobra's base, Duke cryptically states, "Now we've got Cobra right where we want them." Yeah, this was another frantic firefight of a book. I absolutely loved it. I love Williamson's run on G.I. Joe. I love all the Energon universe stuff. Thumbs up again.
Amazing. Never seems to let you down, does he?
No.
Good. I'm glad that is all working out, because like I always say, a lot of these like movie, cartoon adaptations, continuations, whatever, they always seem a little bit lackluster for the most part. So it's nice to see that this has been handled really, really well. But I mean, I guess Robert Kirkman's a big fan anyway. So
I mean, what's really interesting about this is if you look at the way the Autobots are also the underdogs, as well as the G.I. Joe now, that's really interesting.
Good. I'm gonna binge read it all at some point.
Yeah. Make sure you do, man.
I will do. So Zatanna. I love Zatanna. I always love the character. I thought she's cool. And we've got a new number 1 by Jamal Campbell. He's art and writing, actually. Now, before we get into it, the whole book is beautiful. I mean,
Campbell, he did the Superman Absolute Power tie-ins with Zatanna in. So,
I see.
Clearly loves the character.
He really does. I mean, you can feel it in the book as well. I mean, it is beautiful. It is like, even if it's not sort of like your preferred art style, you cannot deny the amount of effort and care that has been taken in this book. It's reminiscent of J. Williams. Is it J. Williams III? And because very intricate stuff. It's really, really, really beautiful, beautiful art. So that I cannot fault. So he does a few pages where he sort of gives you a sort of very, very quick, like little moments from her life, sort of to show that she's got a bit of history and everything else. Doesn't spend too long going over all the past and everything else, which I think was really, really good. And we join up with Zatanna, where they're doing like a rehearsal for a show. So this book kind of balances the sort of magician, the stage magician, and a user of magic quite well in this book as well. So she's at this real famous theatre, the Terpsichore in San Francisco. And like I say, we're introduced to all her crew. and they're a sort of little, sort of like, I don't know, diverse bunch of guys. And this theatre has a lot of history, and we find out a bit about the history. They've got lots of paintings there. One particular is of the Lady White. Right now, in the old day, she was a legend of vintage Hollywood. She was every possible star: music, theatre, fashion. She's like Marilyn Monroe and all the starlets rolled into one. So very, very famous. Made a lot of films. So some of the crew members, you can see that she cares for. They have a little bit of sort of doubting moments. She picks them up and gets them going. But anyway, while they're looking at all these beautiful paintings, this manifestation of the Lady White appears and pulls all of the crew into these various images on the wall. And these images, other than paintings, are posters of movies that this movie star actually starred in the olden days. So basically what she does, she goes through sort of all these sort of pocket dimensions through each of these sort of thematic worlds which are based on the movie that the Lady White had starred in, and she pulls all her crew members out and sends them back to safety. Except when she eventually catches up with the Lady White, one of the team members thrusts this magic sword through Zatanna's chest, right? And the thing is, she can't do anything about it because this sword is magic. She seems to have trouble removing it, and the issue ends with her sort of lying on the floor. Her eyes are all yellow. This magic sword pierced through her while the Lady White looks upon her. And she's obviously controlled this other crew member, the young one, which at the beginning of the book she was helping with his sort of doubts and dilemmas. Now, it was okay. There was a reference to Zatanna, her father, which I'm hoping isn't going to be the story, because like most of Zatanna's stories, they always do the whole her father's story. Like the last one, the last little mini series that covered that, but I didn't mind because it was really, really good and the art was great and I loved everything about it. So I'm hoping that it's just like a minor thing and not the whole story, because it's just going to be a repeat of the same plot all over again. Now, at first I was like, couldn't they have done something a bit different to sort of break us in, a different villain and everything? I felt a little bit down, but then I reread it and I looked at all this beautiful art and I thought, you know what? It's a good entry point for Zatanna, right? It's got magic. She's a stage musician. You can see her using all her powers, using magic. You see she cares. I thought, you know what? As a first issue, it's actually pretty good. And to be honest, even if the writing was bad, which it's not, the art would 100% make up for it, because like I say, the art in this book is first class. So I recommend it. I'm going to pick up the next one. You got some thoughts on this as well? Did you read this?
I haven't read this yet. But
oh man, I thought you said you read it. So that oh man,
I haven't. Sorry.
Okay, well, give it a go, dude, because I think you like it. You like DC, and Zatanna's such a cool character, right? I mean, who doesn't like Zatanna? I say that quite a lot, awesome. But no, I liked it. It was all good, all good. What's next on the agenda? Miss Simone, one of your favourites, a show favourite too.
Yeah. The Uncanny.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jim. If you do watch the video, thank you for all the shout outs you give us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Gail. Uncanny X-Men issue 10, published by Marvel, written by Gail Simone, with art this time by Andrei Bressan. Now, Andrei Bressan was the artist on the Destro miniseries for Energon Universe. The cover art there again by David Marquez, and man, I look forward to David Marquez coming back to this book again, because his artwork is always beautiful.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So previous, not that Andrei Bressan's artwork is not good. He's refined his style a bit, and it fits in much more with the X-Men, which is really fitting for this 2-issue story out, the second part of. So previously, Uncanny X-Men, the quartet of Teenage Mutants known as the Outliers, they were sent to the local mall to relax, shop, and let their hair down. Unfortunately, they're attacked by the Wolfpack, some robotic killer hounds escaped from the Sentinel program that originated back in the Sentinel book from the Ashes storyline. And Death Dream appears to have been savaged in the shocking final page of the last issue. So we open at Haven, the home of Gambit's friends and family. Sorry, the home of Gambit's friends' family, and Nightcrawler discovers that their host's daughter is actually secretly a mutant. She creates force fields and she dreams of joining the X-Men. Her dream code name is Dome, because she creates force fields like domes.
I see.
The Fuzzy Blue Elf is also the recipient of thanks from a lady whose daughter he saved previously back in the Attack on Grey Malkin crossover. She spoils him with home-baked German pastries and cakes to show her affection and gratitude. Back at the mall, the remaining outliers work fast to save Death Dream's life, gathering and using medical supplies from a tattoo parlor in the mall. Quick thinking on Jitter's part there. And they continue battling the Wolf Pack, with Ransom absorbing kinetic energy from the superpowered horse's Ember's mighty kick into himself and using it to take down some of the dogs. Jitter manages to operate, saving Death Dream's life, as the Uncanny X-Men trio of Wolverine, Jubilee, and Nightcrawler all jump into the fray to help out. And this is a really great battle sequence. Meanwhile, Grey Malkin Warden Karina Ellis is raging at the Sentinel program boss, Larry Trask, to shut down the Hounds, and in turn confesses that he was the one who freed the Hounds to prove that they're worth the funding. So Ellis decides to send him to the danger room to punish it, which is, he's not going to do well there. Death Dream realizes that his power doesn't work on the robotic dogs, but he can end the torment of the biological stray dog DNA within, setting them free by killing it. Finally, with this issue, we catch up with Rogue and Gambit, and the married couple have snuck off to see a musical, but are watched from the shadows by a mysterious green, scaly individual who calls Remy a dirty thief and threatens to skin his wife alive. So nice. Yeah, this was another fantastic issue in Gail Simone's run. The Attack on Grey Malkin crossover was really, really fun. And next month we've got the first line-wide X-Men crossover for a while. X-Man Hunt, as Xavier escapes Grey Malkin and Gail is kicking it all off in the next issue of Uncanny X-Men. And I can't wait to see what she comes up with. Yeah, really good stuff. Recommend that one.
Amazing. Okay, so good books. On to Ultimate Wolverine. I know. Okay, so this is Chris Condon on writing duties, and Alessandro Cappuccio on art from Marvel's Ultimate line. Again, Ultimate Spidey is the only one worth reading. I'm going to say that every time. And I had high hopes at Ultimate Wolverine. So the first issue was, mediocre. And I thought, you know what, maybe they're just warming up, right? Maybe we're going to get the action in the second issue. So it is, in my opinion, a little bit of another nothing burger, right? So we get this little moment ago where we're sent back 30 years in the North American Union, where one of the one of the doctors, one of the scientists on the Weapon X program, I'm guessing. He's sort of monologuing to himself. He's some kind of professor, and he's met by the Maker, and the Maker kills him and burns his lab down because I think he's trying to prevent some of the Weapon X mutants, individuals from, being experimented on getting their powers. That's what I took from that. Now I could be wrong. Anyway, we jump back to now in the Eurasian Tiago, which is like this forest where this story is set. I guess it's Russia, and there's this like team of armed dudes, and Wolverine jumps out to get them, and then I think we jump back again, and we've got the whole like Colossus is like the leader, one of the leaders of this group, right? And he's really like not like Colossus. He's a bit of a prick. Let's be honest, right? And he wants Weapon X wants Wolverine to be the Winter Soldier, to be really under their control, right? And it's not happening fast enough for him, and he's worried that he's going to remember all the mind wipes and then come after them. So what he does is he gets the Doctor to bring him out, and then slaps him around a bit and says, "That's how you teach them. That's how men like this learn. They learn that men like me will eat them alive if they don't, bow down and be submissive and do what they're told." And then he says, "Right, I want you to send a team of our best men out there and set Wolverine out there as a test." So the rest of the issue is this team, which we introduced in the beginning, walking around just talking about how like, oh, I think we're not hunting him, he's hunting us. Oh, it's the Winter Soldier. I've heard stories. Oh, he's so badass. Then he kills them all and walks off with all their heads. And then Colossus is like, "Great, well done. Yeah, I'm happy with that." That's it. I mean, we just got pages of Nothing. It's just Wolverine running around a forest, killing people. Still hasn't said a word yet for 2 issues, bear in mind, which I guess is part of the thing. He's got that mask on, like he's under control. Maybe, it's a big thing where that gives him, when he could talk again and his freedom and it all unravels. But the whole issue is Colossus basically saying, slap Wolverine around until he's submissive, send him out to kill people so I can see how badass he is. And then the Maker at the very beginning trying to stop any of this from happening. I was just like, I had to go back and reread it, see if I missed something. There's a couple of memorandums from the Ministry of Defense and this email transcript sort of from Directorate X, which is, Colossus is all part of this weird Russian group of baddies. I didn't even read it because I thought, if I have to read these 2 pages to add any context to this, then you've kind of failed. I know Watchmen does it, but Watchmen, I think with Watchmen, it adds to it. It doesn't, it not necessarily explains what you've just read. It adds to what you've just read. So I could bother.
Yeah.
I'm not always negative. I just maybe because I'm older, I just expect a bit more from my comics. And this book, like Wolverine isn't here. I know it's the Winter Soldier. I know it's an ultimate version, but I don't feel like I'm going to get Wolverine. I know what's going to happen is he's eventually going to break the programming, right? He's then going to go wreak his revenge. He's then going to help destroy the Maker. But you know what? I've read that story 100 times, right? I liked it when Mark Miller did it, Well, the Mark Miller, that was amazing what he did with Wolverine. He set on the ship, on the Shield ship, and and I thought that was so well done. It was full of action. It felt like a Wolverine book. This, I don't know what this is, and I'm 2 issues in, but I'm going to break my 2-issue rule and read 1 more issue, and then I'm just going to leave it. So, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like the art. I really don't like the art in this book at all.
That's weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad art. It's just I don't like it. I don't feel it fits. So that's what I think of Ultimate Wolverine. At least Zatanna was good, right? Did you?
At least
You've read it, right?
I've not read it, but it sounds like it was just as frustrating as the first issue. That was a big issue for me, not knowing which time frame it was set in. The flashbacks and flash forwards kept muddying it, and that kind of put me off.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll check it out. I don't know.
Well,
Still love you, Alessandro.
Yeah.
Come back to Moon Knight, please.
Yeah. But again, we've had 2 issues of let's show how bad ass Wolverine is and how bad Colossus and the dictator, whatever they're called, dictator are called. And it's well, 2 issues in, give us a bit more. There's no meat on the bones, mate. It's all salad and no steak. Right. Moving on from one X-Man to another. Yeah. I read this, by the way.
Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you want to give us any inkling of...
No. This is your review. I'll add something at the end.
Okay, so yeah, this is apparently a tie-in to the One World Under Doom. But I see it as the same sort of way that Blood Hunt, Union Jack tied into Blood Hunt. It's pretty tangential. So anyway, Weapon X-Men issue 1, published by Marvel, written by Joe Casey, who when Grant Morrison was writing New X-Men, Joe Casey was on Uncanny X-Men, and I was collecting both. And what a time to be alive! What great books! Joe Casey, one of my favorite writers. Art by ChrisCross, who worked on the Genesis version of Captain Marvel with Peter David back in the day as well. Really, really strong art from him, and a beautiful, beautiful cover by one of the masters, Alex Ross. Take a bow. I mean, look, you got Cable, you got Wolverine, you got Deadpool, you got Warpath, and you got my boy Chamber from Generation X. Hells yeah! So this story, following an anonymous tip-off, Wolverine discovers the adamantium harvested body of a cybernetically enhanced terrorist named Kyber. Not to be confused with Cyber over in his solo book. This one's legally distinct. His name's Kyber with a K. In the lift back up to his hotel room after a stint in the bar, Logan is dosed with gas and finds the cables cut, plunging into the bottom in a massive explosion. Now he crawls out of the wreckage and decides to switch hotels, which I thought was quite a cool little moment. And then he's accosted by Deadpool in his hotel room. He's on fine quipping form, telling him that, guess what? Someone's trying to punch his ticket. You don't
While
say,
he's in the shower as well, which I thought was a nice touch.
That too. Also the dialogue, I think I'm seeing a bit too much of you recently, and Deadpool's like, yeah, we're definitely being marketed that way. I see what you're doing there, Casey. Good stuff. So anyway, then Cable arrives in a helicopter, because apparently we're back in the 2000s, which is fine by me. It's a helicopter hybrid, which I thought was really cool. And the trio fly to London to recruit former X-Man John Constantine wannabe Chamber, which is awesome. And the quartet bond over pints in the pub. Deadpool excitedly suggests they call themselves Weapon X-Men. Not even Claremont Morrison or that Hickman guy could think of a name this great. So following Cable's intel, they ended up at everyone's favorite Euro vacation spot in the Marvel Universe, and that's of course Latveria. And they clashed with a brainwashed Thunderbird, who was one of the original X-Men, Dave Cockrum's giant-size X-Men, and was killed soon after, and was resurrected during the Krakoa era.
Indeed.
And ever since then, he's been brainwashed. He sucker punches and badly injures Wolverine, and this confirms that the gas attack really badly weakened Wolverine's healing factor. Cable and Chamber give chase, but while they're alone, Deadpool decides to shoot Wolverine in the head with an adamantium bullet and blows up the helicopter, so Cable and Warpath can't get out of there. He then gleefully reveals that he was behind the attack on the lift, and he contacts his mysterious client. He is the Merc with a mouth, after all. I mean, hey. The mystery man is disappointingly revealed to be Hydra's Baron Strucker.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a real come down reading out, just like, is that it? And he's got big plans in mind for Wolverine. Oh, is he going to use him to attack Doom? I don't know. But no, I really enjoyed this issue. This was a lot of fun. Lots of callbacks to the early 2000s of X-Men, which was my era. That was how, when I first started collecting comics, that was what I was reading. Joe Casey's Uncanny X-Men. I probably will check out another issue. It's a shame it was Baron Strucker. That's all. But up until that final page, I was on board.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I had a similar experience with this,
but I still recommend it because it was a hell of a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's not bad, is it? Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. You know what? I didn't dislike it. I felt some of the quips were a bit forced and a bit too like, oh, okay, you went down that line, and I was starting to lose interest in the book until Deadpool shot him in the eye. I thought, okay, then I thought that you've pulled me back in. You've pulled me back in. I thought, all right, you know what? Just based on that scene, I'm interested, because why would Deadpool do it? It's kind of similar to what's going on in Miles Morales and the Deadpool book, right? Where he's having to take out Miles Morales and the whole thing. It's like, if he's got to do it, he'll do it, right? Even if it's someone he knows. So I thought, oh, right, okay.
Morals.
Yeah, you got that. And then when he did Strucker, I was like, okay, not again.
Yeah, I know, Strucker.
Come on.
It's going to be revenge for what... It's going to be revenge for what Doom did to Zemo, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever.
Whatever. No, but I'll give it a second issue. Now.
Yeah, definitely. Ooh.
This has consistently, issue 1 and 2, been one of the best books Marvel have put out in decades. I absolutely loved it.
When it arrives, yeah. But...
yeah, it is notoriously late. I think it's only 4 issues as well, so,
Yeah.
Does issue 3 continue in the vein that the other two have? Yes, it does. This book is incredible. All right, I'm going to start with the art. So it's, honestly, Jonathan Hickman, this to me is one of the greatest books he's ever written. You know what I mean? And I find that strange, as it's like a crossover book, but it is. It's one of the best books he's ever written. Esad Ribić has never been more on form with the art. It is an absolute joy to look at these pages, right? And I just feel that every panel, every piece of dialogue is purposeful and considered. It is brilliant. It's weaving in aliens with Avengers, something that you could go, oh, right, and you get those silly little mini-series and they're terrible. But this isn't. This, to me, I want this to be canon. I want this in the Marvel U because it is so damn good. So, much like he started in issue 2, right? We start with the engineers who are in a different universe or multiverse and a different timeline as well. And they make short work of the Davids. Now, the Davids are those... they're the enemy. They're the one that have been cultivating these aliens to basically decimate every universe, every planet, all right? Which is really cool because it means there's someone who can take these guys on, right? Anyway, we jump back to present present time, right? And Stark and the survivors of Earth, there's not many of them. You've got Carol Danvers and Miles Morales. They're in trouble, right? Because the ship took damage when they took off, and so they're going to be forced to land on Mars, which is basically mutant world, right? That's where I guess all the mutants ended up. So they haven't been there in like 20 years. They're not sure what they're going to find. So they land. And a really cool thing. So Tony Stark is like 10,000 years old in this, as you know, right? He's an old decrepit man in his wheelchair, and he's like, right, I'm coming with you. And Miles is like, no offense, dude, but you're an old man in a chair. And he says, not just a chair. And he goes, and he gets his Iron Man suit. And I was like, oh yeah, he may be old, but that suit's keeping him going. I was like, I love it. I thought, yes,
that sounds incredible.
It really was really cool. And like, I just love it because Miles is like has to pull his like mask up to go, what the fuck? What's going on? I was like, yeah, I love it. Anyway, Sinister runs this planet now. Yeah. And there's like multiples of Sinister, right? It's really cool. And he's got a face hugger, right? He's been taken apart, and he's been, what he does, he works all these things out and he tries to take advantage of it. And he really does. And we get this really cool scene where as he turns away from the operating table, he's talking to like I don't know if they're clones of him or dupes of him, right? We see some very familiar X-Men, all sort of like stuck in the wall with face huggers on them. Colossus is there with a face hugger on him, and he's like, "Yeah, we found the perfect being." Right now I could just take over, do what evil people do, right? And he's like, "Yeah, I love it." So, unbeknownst to Iron Man, Carol Danvers, and Miles Morales, is that they don't know that all the mutants are pretty much, they're gone, right? Sinister is taking care of them. They bump into Sinister, and while Sinister's keeping them busy, he sends a team of his sort of Sinisters, right, to the ship, and they got these guns where they fire these face huggers at everyone in there, all the survivors of Earth, right? And basically, that's it for the ship, right? There are face huggers all over the place. Iron Man's little special beep gets a hologram, and he sees what's going on. Then he's like, oh my god. But before you know it, Sinister sort of does this whole sort of like villain thing, and all these fully grown aliens, xenomorphs, they crawl round the back of him and they circle Iron Man, Danvers, and Morales. So how is he controlling them? How is he's worked out their DNA and how to, I don't know. It's so cool. So the big, really cool fight goes on, right, between these xenomorphs and the guys. They're in the air, there's explosions. It is so cool. And Carol, she blasts a hole through one of them, and all this acid goes on her face, starts melting her face away. And just as she starts to lose consciousness, there's this light in the sky. And guess who's there? Badass Emma Frost. She turns up with a couple of the other surviving X-Men. Oh yeah. And Logan.
I need to read this.
Yeah. So they bandage her up and they're trying to help her. And there's a really cool scene, right? She's like, I've got to get back to the others. And they say, listen, when we took you, your ship was blown up to smithereens, and we saw everyone else get overwhelmed. They're gone. You can't go back. She's like, no, I promised never to leave anyone behind before. I've just done that, i.e. Bruce, right? She's, I'm not doing it again. And Wolverine's like, no, you can't. You're not listening to me. He says, you see, I got a note. He says, one killing machine recognized another. All right. He says that is death out there. Even Wolverine is saying, don't go. Even I'm not going to go anymore. She's like, no, fuck it. I'm going to go. And he goes, all right, I'll come with you. Of course, because they're heroes, right? Anyway, the next day, right, they sort of portal to where the battle was, and they find Iron Man, mask off, suit damage, the carcass of a face hugger, and a big hole in his chest. Like, he's dead. He is gone, mate. And I was like, oh my god, they killed Tony Stark off. He's dead. And as they're sort of like reeling from this revelation, something appears in the sky, and it's these two giant ships. And Carol goes, Wakanda has arrived. Because don't forget, the Wakandans from issue 1, they're on a revenge mission as well. They've turned up. And I was like, oh my god. And the next thing says, to be continued. I was like, no, please don't end. This was great. that
Wow.
honestly, this was great. Nothing about this is bad. The only thing that is bad about it is that it's not 100 pages an issue, right? It is so good. Honestly, I have nothing negative to say about this. Art, the feeling, the characters, everything about it. You care about them. You really do care. You feel the dread. You worry that any of them could die. Everything about it, every word is superb. This is. I hope they do some beautiful oversized hardcover for his art and this story, because I'll buy it in a heartbeat. First class, amazing book. Anyway, you've got to get on with it. I feel really bad that I'm revealing it every time it comes out and you're not reading it as it goes.
I
So
know.
catch up on the first three and read the fourth before I review
I've
it.
been really bad at reading comics this week, but I did read the books I had to review, so
Well, that's helpful. Thanks for coming on the show, reading your books. So, mate, next on, Strange Things. I love the show, and we're about to get the next season, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
Yeah. But how are they going to do that, by the way?
Some point.
Because let me just say, for example, a lot of the boys now are like twice as tall, deeper voice, and you got Millie Bobby Brown, who was a shaved head, tiny little child, who's now like
she was
pretty much, let's just say, a full-grown Hollywood starlet. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'm going to be excited to see it. I love that show.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to drop later on this year on Netflix.
It is this year,
huge Stranger Things fan. Dungeons and Dragons was always the fandom that got away for me, unfortunately.
I was deeply buried in it when I was a child.
I dabbled, but I had an experience that put me off of it, and I never went back. It's a shame. I mean, people keep asking me to play, and maybe I should one day.
Go for it.
Also,
it's good fun.
Shout out to Dice Tower Gaming, because they've been a supporter of us since day one. They screen our show in their cafe every week, and so thanks, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Dice Tower. Thanks, Scott. Sorry for all the swears, mate. Sorry for all the swears. I'll try and limit them each episode.
So this review's for you, Scott. Anyway, Stranger Things / Dungeons and Dragons: Rise of Hellfire, issue 1, published by Dark Horse, written by Jody Houser and Eric Campbell, with art by Diego Galindo. And I'm not familiar with any of these creators, unfortunately.
No, not
so this season 4 prequel book focuses arguably on the coolest character from that season. Metalhead Dungeon Master of the Hellfire Club, Eddie Munson. Set in the town of Hawkins, Indiana, and split between 2 time frames, a decade apart. The first one is Eddie discovering D&D in 1978, and the second is meeting up with the Stranger Things kids in 1985. Cool. So perennially held back from graduation, we first meet Munson in 1985, the head of the Hellfire Club, and now he's lacking and needing inspiration to finish the latest epic campaign. He witnesses a kid being bullied at his locker, and this sends Eddie into a flashback to 1978, his first day at the high school, shy and withdrawn, and hanging with his female friend Ronnie, and she's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And the duo soon fall in with the other high school nerd trio, who invite them to play Dungeons and Dragons for the first time outside of school that night. Now, forgive me if I get any of the terminology wrong, because as I said, just not a player. Hobbit fan Ronnie, she rolls a halfling thief with just 1 hit point, while Eddie rolls a powerful half orc. Now, during the game, Eddie puts his half orc in between Ronnie's halfling and a goblin attack, saving her. And later on in battle, he scores a 20-hit critical roll. Am I saying that right? A 20-hit critical roll, and that's it for him. He's got the bug, and he never looks back. Now, back in 1985, the Stranger Things crew of Mike, Lucas, and Dustin, who barely cameo in this issue, feeling displaced and back at school, without Will and Eleven after the events of season 3, they slip back into playing D&D, meeting up with cool kid Eddie when he stands up to a teacher for him for the first time. And that was pretty much it. I honestly, I wanted more. I mean,
was it just them playing a D&D game?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. There are a couple of fantasy sequences where Eddie imagines the goblin attack, and that was something. But like I said, not a Dungeons and Dragons fan. A huge fan of the lore and mythical creatures and Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, fantasy stuff like that. My uncle left his monstrous compendium hanging around on the coffee table when I was a kid. I read that cover to cover, so I know my Displacer Beast from my Beholders. I know what I'm talking about there. But Yeah, I mean, what would you expect from a Stranger Things Dungeons and Dragons
I don't know.
book?
I mean, I know it
Because it
says it on the
wasn't
cover.
just
I wouldn't
what
expect us to watch them play a game. I'd expect them maybe to dress up as the characters,
this.
go on some adventure, or get sucked into
I
some
mean,
weird
I mean,
dimension where they're
right? Yeah, I
something
mean,
like
I guess
that,
they. I mean, I guess they have to save all the cool stuff for the show.
which would tie in
Disappointing.
with the cartoon of Dungeons and Dragons, where a bunch of kids get sucked into a world and become you know what I mean?
Dungeons and Dragons, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It totally would. Um, but no, the equivalent of this for us comic book fans would be a comic book set in a comic book store with comic book fans talking about what happened that week in the comics. And you know what? I don't want to read that comic book. Well, it depends who writes it, I guess. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to like this. I might check out another issue to see if anything picks up. But yeah, it's a
Oh,
no.
okay, that's a shame. They've done a lot of Stranger Thing comics, like a like a lot. Maybe they're running out of decent ideas.
Yeah, yeah. There we go.
Okay, so it's that time of week, Jim. Book of the week.
My book of the week this week, and the book I look forward to every month from Marvel. One of the two books I look forward to every month from Marvel. The other being Moonlight Fist of Khonshu. This week, Uncanny X-Men issue 10. You've done it again, Gail.
Yeah, well done, Gail.
Amazing stuff.
I knew it, Gail. I knew it. For me, it's got to be that Aliens versus Avengers. It's incredible. It's incredible. I wish
mean,
all Marvel books were of that standard, because I'd be reading every Marvel book every week like I used to. You know, I used to read, I mean,
so
I remember when I had the store, we both had like 60, 70 books a week. You know, and it's lucky now if it's
uh,
5. You know what I mean?
yeah, but both books of the week are Marvel this week.
Yeah. So
So
well done, Marvel.
they are doing something right.
All right.
I'll give them that.
Well, yeah, I'll give them that. So let's look to next week. What have we got? Absolute Wonder Woman, I think would be the last issue for me if it doesn't pick up to my tastes. We've got Black Canary, Best of the Best, which has been really good. We've got Detective Comics, Jim. That has been incredibly
Oh
good.
yes,
Yeah. There's a few
yeah.
other cool things like Hellhunters is a bit of fun. There's some new number ones I'm going to touch on, and hopefully Ultimate Spider-Man 14. Fingers crossed. What about you?
Well, unfortunately, Void Rivals was coming out next week, but it's been delayed by a month.
Whole
No,
month. What's going on there?
I
Run out
don't
of
know.
energy on.
But and you know, last issue was such a huge cliffhanger. I kind of really want to read that book. But anyway, I'll read it next month. It's fine. So yeah, Thundercats issue 13, where an issue focusing on Snuff. But the interesting take that Declan Shelby's done on Snuff so far. So this one should be really interesting. And also, Jason Aaron, you're back in the game again, my friend. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 7 with art by Juan Ferrier, and you know this got book of the week last month
Yeah.
from Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
So
He's pumping
yeah,
out a lot of books, isn't he? Oh, Mr.
yeah.
Aaron.
Other than that, Fantastic Four is doing their first tie into One World Under Doom, and
Yeah.
Ryan North's run has been amazing so far. So I expect that to continue.
I will read it. I will read that one. Back to
Okay.
Jason Aaron though. His Punisher run. I mentioned this before another show. So
Punisher Max, yeah.
yeah. Punisher Max. I reread it a couple of weeks ago and I was like, wow. I think he was. I mean, Garth Ennis. You know, God bless him, the
Yeah.
king of Punisher Max. Like, but I didn't think many people come close to that. But that really is on par. It's so good. Yeah, I do like. I don't like all of Jason Aaron's books, but you know that if you got a Jason Aaron book, you got a high chance of it being good. So yeah. Anyway, that's our thoughts. Let us know yours in the comments, and hopefully you'll be here next week if we haven't completely destroyed your favorite comic book. So say goodbye, Jim.
Bye bye, Jim.
Goodbye.